We're just here for our last event, and I hope you had a great time there. And welcome to our Captain's Corner. Throughout the cruise, you always kind of build up and accumulate all these questions about what life is like to live and work on a cruise ship. You also think of all these technical questions about engines, motors, propellers, thrusters, all this, what kind of fuel all these questions. And I get bombarded with these questions, and I'm like, I don't know, let me call somebody. But we're going to have the expert, the person who knows it all today, and we're going to bring them out, and we're going to open up for a fun Q&A for all of you to enjoy. We have our entertainment activity staff. They're walking around the room with a microphone. So if you have a question, you just raise your hand. They'll come over to you with the mic. You'll ask your question, and Captain Marshall will be here to answer those questions to the best of his ability. But there's great stories, there's some laughs along the way, and you're going to have a great time this morning. And then don't forget, if you didn't hear the announcement, we have, it's a very busy day today. So the next big event after this, we have at 1:15 on the pool deck for our men's international belly flop competition. And then we also have a brand new aqua show today. All right, now it's not the app, it's not the compass, as it is kind of one of those surprise shows. It's our secondary aqua show on board. It's called Big Daddy's Hideaway Heist. And it's a lot of fun. It's a really fun show. This one has a lot of diving in it. And this will start at 3:30 or 5:15 today. So it's an afternoon show, and there's no reservations needed, which means it can get very, very busy. If you don't have this is the tip I'll give you for this. If you don't have early seating dinner, okay, if you don't have to be at dinner at 5, I would strongly recommend going to the 5:15 show, all right, because the 3:30 show will be jam-packed. The 5:15 show, normally a little less crowd, so if you don't have early dinner, I would definitely recommend going to the 5:15 performance, but it's a great show, and you'll have a lot of fun there. But right now it is time to bring to the stage with a thunderous round of applause as we introduce the captain, the master of the vessel. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Captain Marshall!
There's a lot of people here. I think we're going to talk about NASA, aren't we? Corey, maybe you can do this one this time, huh? Well, as mentioned, I'm Captain Marshall. It's an absolute honor to be here with all of you. I do look forward to this event because it's a great opportunity for me to understand what's going on in those magical minds of yours. And as promised, I will answer your questions. That's the guarantee. We've turned off the internet, so you can't Google anything, so my word will be the truth to you. The way we're going to do it, I'm just going to preempt a little bit of my story, because doing this years and years now, some of the same questions creep up, so I want to get to some of the unusual questions that you may have. So I'll introduce my career, how I started in this business, and then after that, we will open up to questions, and as mentioned, just raise your hand, you'll get the microphone. When you get the microphone, just to make it a little more personable, let me know your name, where you're from. We'll get your social insurance number, your bank account. It's Royal Caribbean, folks, right? Nothing's free around here. No, I'm just joking. So just your name, where you're from, so we get a sense of who's in the room and who I'm talking to. So let's kick it off. Where did it all begin? It all began, well, I was born and raised in Toronto, Canada. Yeah. Oh, there we are. The whole family's here. We got Christmas a little bit early, huh? It must be snowing in Toronto. That's why they're in the Caribbean. Now, this is going to shock some of you. As a young boy growing up in Canada, it was my lifelong dream to always become a professional hockey player. I know. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? There's not many of us. There's a select few. But of course, as a Canadian boy, I grew up playing hockey. I wanted to pursue a career in hockey. I went through high school playing hockey, made it up to the provincial level, the Ontario Hockey League, playing in Peterborough. And then, 16 years old, started to realize that I wasn't growing anymore. And there was no hope for me to make it as a defenseman in the NHL. So gut check time comes 17, 18 years old, and all the questions in high school from the counselors and teachers and friends are figuring out, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go to school? And I couldn't figure it out. When I wasn't playing hockey, I was working at a marina in the summer, and I absolutely loved that job. That was, my break from all of the pressure of playing hockey. And absolutely loved my summers up in the Muskokas, which is north of Toronto. pumping gas, fixing outboard engines, and of course I had my own boat. And I was like, well, if there's anything I'm going to do in my life, I would love to be on the water, because I loved every aspect of it then. So, 18 years old, didn't make the NHL, but I still have my phone, so if Dallas Stars were calling, I might have to take a call about that. I decided to go to Newfoundland, Canada, so that's on the east coast of Canada. There's a little island called Newfoundland, and there I enrolled in the nautical science studies as an 18-year-old there. That's a 4-year program, and part of that schooling, you learn everything you need to know to become an officer on a ship, and you spend 1 year at sea. And my first ship that I was ever on was a coal boat. It's called a self-unloader, and I joined the ship in Quebec City, and we went through the St. Lawrence all the way up to Thunder Bay in the winter. And I thought as a Canadian, I knew what it meant to be cold, until the captain sent me onto the forecastle, which is the forecastle, the front of the ship, with a wooden mallet to go beat the ice off of the hull as we were sailing in Lake Superior. And I wasn't sure if my hands were numb from the vibrations of smacking the ice or the extreme cold. And I started to think to myself, what have I gotten myself into? After that first time at sea there, I wasn't so sure this is what I wanted to do. But I went back to school and continued my studies, and the next sea phase, the next ship that I worked on, was an oil tanker. And now, listen, as we go to school, we're taught by ex-captains. And all the captains tell the students, whatever you do, get into the oil and gas business. Well, I'm speaking to the prior, because I'm sure some of you are from Houston, Galveston, there's money there, right? So oil and gas, if you get in there, you're going to have a good pension, a great career, and good working conditions. So here I am, tickled pink. I'm on an oil tanker, life is good, and I'm working out of Halifax, which is on the east coast of North America, going up and down the eastern seaboard, and going to all these little outports, delivering gas and learning all the trade about that. Absolutely loved it. I'm a tanker man through and through. But just like every story, there was a girl. And with my story, there was a girl as well. And her name was Lorianne, and she was also in my class. And we met in the nautical school, and she went on a coal boat for the first time, just like I did, but a different ship. And she had a horrible time. And for a woman in the industry, it's a little bit lagging, as things are on land in the marine industry there, and it wasn't so welcoming to have women on board. There's still superstitions that women are bad luck on board, so some of these superstitions still carry through, and she had a really tough time. She also then got on a tanker, but her time on the tanker wasn't as pleasant as mine. So she left the tanker and she applied to Royal Caribbean, because Royal Caribbean was actively pursuing women in the marine industry, especially on the navigational side. So she applied, she was pretty, and I followed her to Royal Caribbean. And that's exactly why I'm here. It's pretty incredible how things work. Now, I'm sure some of you are wondering, is he married to her? What happened to the girl? I am married to her, so we're married now for 18 years, I think. She's not here, so I can't get in trouble yet, but she's coming December 15th to join me. So I'll have to figure it out for then. But no, it's been 18 years married. And yeah, we started our lives together with Royal Caribbean. We both graduated. We both got our first license, which is called a watchkeeping mate certificate. And I started in 2004, November 2004. My first ship was Majesty of the Seas. And I tell you, I looked up at this monstrosity in Miami at Terminal G going, what have I gotten myself into? All of this for a girl, huh? Because I wanted to be a tanker man, and my tanker was a lot smaller than this massive cruise ship. But it's so funny that I'm saying that. Some of you are probably thinking, Majesty's tiny. Yeah, well, she was a mega class ship when she came out. Do you remember that? And now look where we are, standing on Harmony of the Seas. It's absolutely phenomenal. we continued our lives together. We have 2 children, 2 boys. One is 14 and one is 17. And while the kids were young, before my oldest, his name is Braden, before he was in school, we were both working for Royal Caribbean. And we would work opposite contracts, 14 weeks on, 14 weeks off. And when I was working, she would be off with the kids. And when she was working, I would be off with the kids. And I would go and cruise with her. And it was working out wonderful. We were saving money. We weren't spending any money because we were always on a ship at the time. And my kids literally had their sea legs before they had their land legs, I believe. And some of them, well, they were skating on the Studio B on Voyager before they were skating in Canada. So it's incredible to see where we've gone with Royal Caribbean. But the last contract that my wife took was on Liberty of the Seas, and she went to Europe. And we didn't have the funds, and it wasn't working out logistically for me to go over to Europe. I stayed at home with the kids while she did her last contract. Well, she came back from that contract, and she said, I can never leave those boys for that long again. It absolutely tore my heart out. And I said, I can. Because I just spent 14 weeks with 2 boys, and now I completely understand when moms go crazy that they're not napping. They're supposed to nap. That's my time. They didn't do it, you know? So I joke, but it gave us great perspective because now my wife understands how I feel when I'm away. Even now, even though they're older, I'm missing graduations or I'm missing birthdays and that feel, that pull. And I completely understand when my wife says, I'm going to kill those boys. Figuratively, not literally. So it gave us great perspective there. And now I've moved up through the ranks from Majesty of the Seas. I went to Vision and Radiance, and from first officer, or second officer to first officer to chief officer. And then in 2012, the company asked me to go to the Oasis of the Seas. And that was a big jump from Radiance to the Oasis. I got promoted as staff captain then. That is the second in command. And then in 2015, they knocked on the door and said, would you go and live in France for 5 months and help build the Harmony of the Seas? And I jumped at that opportunity again with the blessing to have a wife and family who's willing to support these cool things that I get to do. And I literally have blood, sweat, and tears in the hull of the ship because I've seen this before the stage was here and the carpet and all the seats. And this is what I call my baby girl because I had 2 boys. So I really do genuinely care for Harmony of the Seas. I got promoted to captain in 2022, July, on Independence of the Seas. And then immediately in December, they said, can you go to Harmony? And man, I'm just the luckiest guy in the world to be here standing on the stage on this ship, which is so near and dear to my heart, with all of you fine folks here. So that is my journey. And now we'll open it up to your questions. How about that? That should have sparked a few things. So the crew staff are here, and raise your hands, they're going to get to you.
All right, here, Captain.
We got one? All right.
This is Steve Holmes. We're from Wisconsin. We wintered in Texas for 5.5 months.
Oh, what a great idea.
And I was here a year ago on this same ship.
Oh, you were? Okay,
The
great.
question is, how far out is the horizon where the ocean meets the sky?
Yeah, okay, so that all depends on your vantage point, but from our bridge, we're looking at about 32 nautical miles. When we compare nautical miles to land miles, it's 1.15 conversion. So a land mile would be, I say add the tax, add 15% there, and that's what you're going to get for land miles. So we're talking 35 miles, something like that. Yeah. Visual, yeah.
Thank you, Captain.
Hi, I'm Arlene from Waxahachie, Texas. Good to have you back on board.
Thank you so much.
My question is about the upgrades or updates being made to the Allure. What can we expect to see? And then will those same upgrades be made to the Harmony?
Yeah, great questions. So Allure's going into her dry dock, and they did earmark, I think whether they announced it or not, maybe I'll get in trouble, 150 million upgrade for that, which is pretty standard for upgrading a ship of this size. And basically, I don't know if they've announced everything, but Oasis got upgraded. You can expect the same for the Allure. So that's matching the class. The Oasis is the first in class, Allure, Harmony, Symphony, Wonder, Utopia. And you'll see, you all had a chance to see Utopia there? Yeah. Yeah, Captain Gus Anderson was over there. I told him, you're making my ship look old, man. Because he's got a nice balcony or cabin right on top of the bridge there. They got these cool jacuzzis where you can see everyone scratch their bums and all this kind of stuff. It's all very, very fancy and shiny and new. But the specifics, I would say you would see playmakers go into the boardwalk. You're going to see the Abyss. Remember, she doesn't have the Abyss. Allure doesn't have the water slides. COVID interrupted a lot of the plans that were in place for her. So a lot of that material was already purchased, but was not installed due to cost savings at the time during the COVID out of service period. And then for us, there's been a lot of talks. They're looking at all the venues and what changes they can make, but nobody has actually committed anything. So if I was to guess, I'm also looking at Allure as much as possible to see what we can get. How many people will think we should put a pool in the solarium? All right, I'll call Michael and let him know.
All right, Captain here.
Yep, I might not be captain on Hermia.
I'm Jamie. I'm from Katy, Texas, and I didn't see it, but some friends said they saw a shipping container floating out in the ocean.
Yeah,
I assume that's not a usual thing.
It's not, but it does happen from time to time, yeah. That was probably as a result of Milton or Raphael was the latest one, or Milton. Sometimes these things just get unlashed and float around. But yeah, we're able to see them on a nice day like it was there. This happened, I want to say, I actually have a picture of it, but it happened in the afternoon, yesterday afternoon, just after we turned around the Keys and headed into the Gulf there. There was a shipping container that was floating. We're able to pick up that if the conditions are good. A container kind of floats low profile to the sea, and we have radar. Okay, so radar is just an electromagnetic pulse. These are these scanners that are twirling around on the top of the ship. There's one at the very front and one at the back. And we use that to detect anything on the surface of the water. This one was not picked up by the radar, it was picked up by our lookout. So if any of you did the bridge tour, they would have explained to you that we have all these fancy electronics, but we always have one person, their job on the bridge is to take binoculars and look out. So we have applications at the back when you leave, if you'd like to sign up to become a lookout, because I think it's one of the best jobs in the world. Half you did it this week anyways, right? So let's go to the next question.
Okay, Captain. Thank you. Here, back in the center.
Back in the center. All right, there we go.
Andre from San Antonio, Texas.
Hello.
I got a question. Whenever you guys pull in the port,
Yeah.
there's a ship next to, do y'all captains get together and have lunch together?
Sometimes we do, yeah. That was a great question. So with Utopia, of course, when it's our fellowships in the company, we tend to meet on the pier or have lunch together. Captain Gus actually invited me for lunch, but I have to be honest, I went to Coco Cay and I swung in a hammock for about an hour there. While it was raining, I was like, come on. That must have been my dues for canceling NASA, right? There was like a short period, you all were there, right? In Coco Cay, a short period of just a little bit of rain. Well, that's when I went ashore, so. But yeah, I did take a little bit of time to enjoy that island because we're not going back there for the rest of this year. So I know the amazing offerings that they have on Coco Cay, and I love just to walk around the island. And I was incognito, so I had my baseball cap on.
All right, Captain. Here in the center.
Oh, there we go.
Hey, I'm Joe from Dallas.
Hello.
You said you helped construct the ship?
Yes, indeed.
What does that involve from your end, actually?
Okay, good question. Yeah, so as a staff captain, just a little bit of the ship's organizational chart. We have the captain, overall command, and then I have department heads, and we have the engineering department, which is the chief engineers in charge of that, all things technical. We have the hotel department, which is the hotel director. He's in charge of making sure everything that you guys do, see, touch, feel, is happening smoothly. And then we have the staff captain, who's in charge of the deck department. So he's in charge of the maintenance, making sure she looks pretty and has nice paint on it. He's also in charge of security, medical, and he is the second captain on board. So anything that happens to me, he can take over and he's fully licensed and capable to do so. So I was the staff captain when we were in France. And when you purchase a ship, you don't just walk up to the dealership and they give you the keys and you sign away. You purchase piece by piece, and there's a lot of testing and proof that systems are a go, no go, kind of like NASA, launching rockets. So, for example, in a space like this, there could be 100 different inspections. One would be, are all the lights in place? First, you got to check that they put them in the right spot. Then you got to check that they're all working. Same with the seats. And all these inspections are done with the contractor who did the work, whether it's the shipyard or the subcontract, and the owner, who is Royal Caribbean. And I was working on behalf of the owner. So as the staff captain, I was doing all the safety checks, all the fire detectors, all the emergency signage, and in addition to that, ensuring that all the crew were familiar with the ship and their emergency duties. Because as soon as we take ownership, we take full responsibility for all the lives on board, and we have to be prepared for any emergency. So it was my job to train 2,100 crew with my team, of course, and make sure that everything is a go for the ship to take delivery there. Yeah.
Thank you, Captain. One more here.
Hello, Christopher from Missouri.
Hello, Christopher.
Heaven forbid you have like a man overboard situation, or in other case you have to stop for somebody that might be floating out there. What kind of effort and cost goes into that operation, rescuing that person?
Okay, very good question. Yeah. So having a person overboard, of course, is never a good scenario, but we do train for it. Most of you were probably ashore, but we're doing drills. You'll hear Bravo, Bravo. We did our United States Coast Guard drill on Saturday before you all joined. So we kind of delayed boarding just slightly there because we were being tested by the United States Coast Guard in our capability to deal with various emergencies. Their scenario, they came on board and said, okay, you have a fire in the crew laundry, and go. And then we had to play act and show and rig hoses and set up fire teams and all that. So similar to a person overboard, we do drills and we make sure that we're able to handle that at the drop of a hat because we never know when this can happen. There's very different scenarios on, cost is not anything that's considered. We have a duty and responsibility for all the lives on board. And guess whose responsibility that is? Yeah, it's just me. It's only one person. So we will stop the ship no matter what and make all efforts to rescue the person. It's a big effort because when the ship is moving, right now we're at 16 knots. We would have to slow the ship down, turn it around. It's not like a Ferrari. I can't just slam on the brakes and e-brake and drift around. We slow the ship down, and we have our crew members who are throwing life rings overboard, and then we lower a small rescue boat, and that small rescue boat would go out and retrieve the person in the water and bring them back on board. Then, of course, we're blessed to have 3 doctors, 5 nurses, full medical facility with ICU and emergency room as well to hopefully make sure we get the medical care that's needed for the person in the situation. Yeah? All right.
All right, Captain here.
Oh, good. A happy question.
I'm Andrew from Texas.
Hello, Andrew.
My question is, what's your favorite Pokemon?
Excellent. It has to be Pikachu, man. It has to be. I go with the popular guy for sure. Yeah, good question. Can I ask you a question? Okay. Last night, the hotel director called me and said we're out of ice cream. Now, I'm not blaming you. I'm just asking. Do you know who ate all the ice cream on board? No? Okay. I'm just checking. It's refilled, so you can have ice cream. It's okay. Go ahead. Who's next?
Thank you, Captain. Here in the very beginning. Hi.
Oh, geez. Couldn't it be any closer? Huh?
I'm Eduardo. Eduardo from Mexico.
Okay.
And I just want to know, what does your day-to-day look like?
Okay, excellent question. Yeah. So my day-to-day changes. It's one of the things I love about this job is how dynamic it is. You can wake up one day and you're going into a port, so you have to deal with weather, you have to deal with different situations. But on a typical day, when the weather is good, weather has a big impact on the stress of my day. Good weather, fair winds, following seas, everything's good. On a day like today, I'm an early riser naturally. I just have to wake up and see the sunrise, so I usually wake up for that. And I go directly to the bridge. My cabin is right behind the bridge, and my office is directly on the bridge. So I leave my cabin and I go talk to the bridge officer just to get an update on what happened throughout the evening, get an update on where we are, if we're on time, if we're behind, and then take a look at the power management. Do we have the right engines, and what's the forecast for the day? So those officers, along with my coffee, we have that little chat there, and then I usually just take a couple minutes out on the balcony, because there's no better way to test the weather and check the weather is to actually go out and feel it. And just off of the bridge, there's a balcony there, and that's where I go and finish my coffee. Then it's usually check up on some emails, get myself ready, and then I'll go for a walk around the ship just to see how the cargo's doing. Do you know who the cargo is? See how you're all doing.
Captain Marshall called us cargo.
Come back to bite me. Make sure that everyone's having a good time. And then the department heads will also stop in. Usually I'll see them while I'm walking around, or they'll meet me up on the bridge with any updates on the happenings that happen throughout the evening and what we can see for the next upcoming week. So right now I'm looking, of course, at next week's cruise as well, and where we're going to go and the impacts of any weather systems. We're also, thoughts and prayers go out to all of our crew members from Honduras, Belize, Costa Maya. That's where we're all headed, Mexico. And even though it's not called Hurricane Sarah, she's blowing, right? So there's tropical force winds right now that are affecting those places. And we're going to need to get updates, not just on how they are, but the capability for me to bring the ship there next week. When it's a port day, I'll wake up before the arrival, hopefully. Before the pilots, we do a briefing. We pick up the pilot will come on board the ship, and then we'll do the docking. And then once we've docked the ship, there's usually meetings on port days where I'm getting updated on the maintenance status of the ship, because as much as I would love to just drive the ship, and that would be my only job, honk the horn, it's not. I'm CEO of Harmony of the Seas. I'm responsible for the whole operation, for making sure everything goes smoothly, for your experience, for the crew and their satisfaction on board, and of course the financial responsibility of the business. So all of that is incorporated into, usually port days and meetings, and sea days, the crew are out making sure that you're all having a good time and going to see how do we heist. Yeah, good.
All right, Captain here in the first row.
Oh, okay.
Hello, I'm Monica from Baytown, Texas. Thank you for keeping us all safe, especially with Rafael out there.
Yes.
I was just curious, how many lifeboats, if that's what you call them still, are there, and what's the capacity of each one?
Okay, we have 18 lifeboats, and the capacity is 370 persons each. Wow. So some of you are going to do math. And you're going to go, where am I going? We also have 2,100 crew members on board, so if you do the math, I'll break the suspense for you. There's not enough space in the lifeboat for all the guests and crew. But there is for all the guests, so we'll fit all the guests in there. But we do have what we call a marine evacuation system. So those are those big life rafts that you see on deck 5. If you haven't had a chance to go to the jogging track there, you'll see them. When you get off tomorrow, when you pass the jetway, you'll be able to see them as well. And those are inflatable rafts, and there's a chute that you slide down, just kind of like an airplane, but it's an enclosed chute from deck 5 all the way down to the water level. And we do test them, and I have been in them multiple times. And that's where most of the crew will be going. There will be some crew in the lifeboats because they need to take care of the pinnacles. Yeah. No, they have to drive, of course. And they have to make sure that everyone is seated and comfortable and support with any emergency that could occur on the lifeboat as well. So there are some crew that are assigned to lifeboats as well. Yeah. But not me. I got one boat.
We have one more happy question for you here.
Okay, great.
I'm Cash from Oklahoma.
Okay.
Is it hard to port a ship?
To what? To
dock?
To dock? Yes, it is, yeah. So you saw in Coco Cay, there was a little bit of wind there. So that was 30 knots of wind. And what we don't always see and feel and hear and talk about is the current. We also had half a knot of current there. And anytime we talk about current, 1 knot of current is like adding 22 to 25 knots of wind. So there was a lot of forces that were pushing us in Coco Cay directly towards the pier. And we needed to use a lot of power. Now the good news is this ship has a lot of power. The total power, 133,000 horsepower. She's a phenomenal ship. Tim Allen, all right, I just separated the generations there. All right, we'll see if we can neutralize that after. In the bow, at the front of the ship, we have 30,000 horsepower, just a little bit more than that, in the bow thrusters, and they're tunnels. I don't know, sometimes these pictures pop up. Look at that. It's like magic. So that's the anchor, but behind the grating is what we call a bow thruster, and that's a tunnel through the hull with a propeller in it. And the propeller moves water from one side to the other. As you can see, there's 4 of them, and then for perspective, we put a person there. And there's 1 extra tunnel, and it's small, and there's no propeller in it, and it's just anti-suction. It allows water to go from one side to the other to reduce the pressure because the ship is so big. So we utilize these bow thrusters with 30,000 horsepower up there, and we utilize the azipods, which are on the back of the ship. And just for reference, these bow thrusters are the biggest bow thrusters in the world. No, Icon doesn't have bigger bow thrusters. Okay? I have bigger bow thrusters. They're longer and whatever and newer, but I have bigger bow thrusters. Okay? Sorry, did we go off a little bit there? Do you have pictures of the azipods, the clicky magic person? There we go. So 3 azipods on the back. This is giving me about 90,000 horsepower back there. So with great power comes great responsibility. It's not a Pokemon quote, but it's Spider-Man. Huh? All right. And with that, you do. It's a joke, but it's also very, very true. Is that you can drive a Ferrari into a tree because you slam down the gas, right? You have to know how to harness that power and balance the forces. And the difficult thing about maneuvering a ship is nothing is constant. Things are always changing. The wind doesn't just go, I'm going to be 30 knots today, so just so you know. No, it goes, I'm 30, I'm 15, I'm 30, I'm 15, I'm 20, I'm 5, and then you're changing the angle of the ship as well to deal with all that. So there's always adjustments, and it comes with practice. I'm 20 years in the company. I've been ship handling Oasis class ships since 2012, and all of that has been a progression where you learn taking the ship away from the dock and then coming towards the dock, and then in tighter tolerances, so narrower ports and turning circles, and then higher and higher wind conditions. Yeah. Good question, man. You didn't think you were getting that long answer, did you?
All right, Captain, here to your right side.
All right, excellent.
Hey, Captain, I'm going to give you a hockey question.
All right.
John Zabel from Huntsville without a prison, Alabama.
Okay.
My favorite's Bobby Orr. Who's yours?
Bobby Orr. Mine is Paul Coffey. Paul Coffey was my favorite. He was a defenseman. He played for Pittsburgh, but he ended up in Detroit. Now, I did say I grew up in Toronto, but my dad was a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, and like any good son, you have to argue and fight with your father. So I did not like the Toronto Maple Leafs, and across the water, nearest hockey center and the powerhouse at the time was the Detroit Red Wings. But we don't talk about them anymore. It's like the Dallas Cowboys. I gotta go now. Too soon? Too soon?
Thank you, Captain. Yes, I'm Adam from Mississippi, and I heard you had experience with tankers, so it's a little different on a ship when you have multiple power plants.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, if there's an engine failure with a part that's repairable in place, like a piston, let's say it's in the middle between dry dock schedules, will that be added to the schedule for the dry dock, or will it actually be repaired in place during operation?
Very good question, yeah. So we have 6 diesel generators, and I'll just expand a little bit to explain. I can tell you have a technical background, but just so everyone's understanding how the propulsion system and power management of this ship works, we're called diesel electric. So we have 6 big diesel engines, like the size of a bus, and they distribute electrical power to everything, to the microphone, to the lights, to the elevators, and also to all those propulsion units that you saw. So the ASI-pod and the bow thrusters and everything. So everything is using electrical power. Now, if something happens on board, as I mentioned, we have a technical department head, the chief engineer, and he has mechanical engineer, rough engineers, electrical engineers, and they're all capable of making the repairs that are needed. A lot of the work that is done is maintenance, so we're trying to get it overhauling the engines and parts before a breakdown. However, breakdowns can occur, and we do have pistons on board. We can pull pistons, we can change liners, we can do pretty much anything that's needed as long as we do have the parts on board. And that's where it becomes challenging, we don't carry an endless supply of parts. But what Royal Caribbean was very smart in doing with these ships is they provided us with 6 engines. So we can cannibalize one. We can steal from Paul to pay Peter, and we can fix the engine that's needing it until we get a spare part. We also transfer parts between class because Symphony, Allure, Oasis, and Wonder, they all have the same engines as well. So we're able to save on that. And we warehouse a lot of parts as well. So I've never in my career had an issue where we weren't able to make it to a port of call because of a technical failure within Royal Caribbean. That's in my experience. So I am aware that Spectrum was just stuck in Japan for a night because they had an engine issue there. But in my experience and with this ship here, we're blessed with 6 engines, and typically, like right now, I'm running 3 engines. So we're still down to 50% of what we need in order to get you guys back to Galveston on time. A great question, thank you.
Right, Captain, here in your right side.
Captain Joe from Houston, Texas. Thank you for doing this for us. It's very, very, very instructive. I've been through several cruises where the ship has not been able to make it to port because the captain decides to turn around like you did with Nassau.
Yeah.
Are there any parameters, written parameters that tells you X amount of knots of windward or tide, and you cannot make it, or just your own judgment?
It's the responsibility of the captain. So there are no written parameters because once you start dictating terms, then you can have people make the wrong decisions based on their capabilities. Okay, so if there was a new captain who never maneuvered the ship, the tolerances would be a little bit lower. Okay, but with NASA, it wasn't even close, to be honest, because the wave action, as I explained in the video there, and the wind, it's just, the math is simple. We weren't going to have enough water under the keel, and we weren't going to have enough room, the width of the port, for the crab angle that we were needing in order to make it in. But yeah, there could be instances where a captain doesn't feel comfortable. There could also be some technical hindrances that could dictate that as well. Maybe one of my world's biggest bow thrusters isn't working, or one of the ASI-pods aren't giving me full power, or maybe one of the engines are down and I can't get the power that I need, then those tolerances would change. But that's my personal responsibility to make that call. Now, I do have a fully licensed and capable second in command, so it's not like I do this autocratically. I do it with the opinion and input of my staff captain, with my bridge officers who also have experience, and they also have a right to raise any concern. And then we do have support shoreside with our fleet captain, and corroborate with the other ships as well, like I did with Captain Tobias over on the Allure. Yeah?
Thank you, Captain. To your left.
Yeah.
Yes, hi, I'm Dan from West Des Moines, Iowa. Wondered what you are able or willing to share regarding the rumored new Discovery class.
Ooh, okay. The Discovery. Any Pinnacles here? Can you raise your hand? So they know. They know everything. So if I want to know, I ask Pinnacles, because they always know before I do. But what do I know? I know that they're going to build a Discovery class. I know that it's going to be needed for the growth of the company, because as we age out our fleet, we're going to need to replace and still reach these markets. Baltimore, Tampa, we've got to get under that Sunshine Bridge. We've got to be able to get up to Alaska and in and out of all those ports up there and still provide these destinations, travel destinations that people love to go to and markets that are providing us with strong returns. So discovery class is going to come, but what's going to be on it? That I don't know. I think the biggest debate is the size. What is the size? Because this ship is an economy of scale when you compare it to the Brilliance, right? You have one captain on the Brilliance, you have one captain on the Harmony. We have 6,700 guests here, not this week, but we could have total. And they have like 4 guests or something. Okay, like 2,000s, exaggeration. So there is value in a larger ship. However, you can't be a one-trick pony. You have to offer a diverse product. And this is well beyond my pay grade. They did ask us for input as captains, you know, what size and stuff like that. I think the consensus has been around the Voyager class size there. It's a nice happy medium where you still have big enough ship, but if you ever think about if you wanted to build your own boat, right? And then all of a sudden you want to add this, you want to add that. Well, every time you add something, it gets a little bit bigger. But we really need to make sure that the ships are capable to go to the ports of call that are going to be lost from the older ships that are now servicing those areas.
So possibly closer to 130,000 versus 90,000?
I believe so. I think 90,000 is not going to happen. Yeah, that's Radiance class, right? So she'll be bigger than that. My own personal opinion. I mean, you will quote me, but you don't have to. But yeah, I'm sure Discovery announcements are going to come out in the future here. They honestly, genuinely haven't hashed through the brainstorming because they asked us to throw stuff at the board and see, you know, what sticks and what ideas for not just the size of the ship, but the amount of engines and maneuverability of the ship and stuff like that. So you can imagine all the captains want like 10 engines and 160,000 horsepower. Next question.
All right, Captain, here to your left side.
Hey, Captain. Mark from Knoxville, most recently. Question 2, if I could. One is just how do we generate the fresh water? What's the desalinization process? And then if you could share a favorite story.
Sure. All right. So the fresh water on board, this is a big part of cruising, is we produce all the fresh water that is consumed on board. All right. So we have reverse osmosis units, 3 of them that are operating all the time, and that's just taking salt water, pushing it through under pressure, semi-permeable membrane. On the other side, you get fresh water. Then it's treated, UV filtered, and voila, you got yourself some nice drinking water coming out of your tap there. But we also have evaporators on board as well. So same thing, we take salt water from the sea and we boil it, and then it condenses in the top. We collect the condensation, which will be fresh water, and the salt will stay at the bottom as a brine. And then we use that fresh water for the swimming pools, for your sinks and your showers, the toilets. Are the toilets fresh, or have you tasted them lately? I'll let you guys discover that one on your own. But yeah, it's a huge consumer. So how much are we consuming? I'm going to throw some weird numbers out there. 200 liters per person per day is what we're consuming. And then you're like stupid Canadian with his liters. What does that mean? About 1,200 tons a day of fresh water is what we're going through. And we need to produce to keep up to that. We can bunker in Galveston and get some fresh water, but if any of our units go down, then it would really have a big impact on our operation here. The second part of the question was my favorite story, and I'm going to turn to Corey, because you have one about a ghost that I love. Would you mind sharing it with us?
Yeah.
Okay, good. They've heard enough from me for a while. Take it away.
Yeah, so years ago, I was on a different cruise line, and there was this guest who went to get services, and it was an older lady, and she was distraught. She was screaming, throwing things, and claiming there was a ghost in her room that was messing with her and would not let her get any rest. And she honestly believed this. It didn't look like an act. She was scared. So guest services didn't really know what to do. So I thought this would be a fun time to mess with somebody. So,
What a job, huh?
so we took, we went to the back office and we printed off a bunch of Ghostbuster logos. And we quickly got our hands on a carpenter, overalls. And we just stapled the Ghostbuster logos like all over them. And then we took the vacuum and put the Ghostbuster logos on that too. And we went and introduced ourselves to the guest and basically said, hey, we'll take care of this for you. We're Ghostbusters. She clearly had no idea what a Ghostbuster was. And we went to the room and we went in, we turned on the vacuum, made a bunch of noise, and we came back out and told her we got the ghost. And she was like, oh, thank you so much. And we didn't hear from her the rest of the week. So.
That is excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is what I love about the ship, is that we have years, we have lifelong friends, we have so many experiences, and it's not just crew to crew, but it's guest to crew. And none of that was more profound when we lost you all during COVID and you all came back to us. So we're so grateful for having you all on board. And that relationship between guest and crew, you don't find that anywhere else. So thank you all.
Hold on, this little guy here, your hand look, you look tired. You look tired from holding your hand up. So you're going to be the last question. What's your question?
So my question is, Messi or Ronaldo?
Oh.
Messi or Ronaldo?
That's a dangerous question. How to be a politician? Well, you know, in his time, Ronaldo, but now I think Messi has to be my favorite because Royal Caribbean sponsored, and he's the icon of the sea. So I have to go with Messi now. Yeah? Does that work for you? Does that satisfy you? Ronaldo, okay, all right. There we go. There's stocks are going to drop here. We're going to future cruiser.
Everybody, thank you so much for coming out today for our Captain's Corner. Hope you had all your questions answered. Busy day, everybody. Lots of fun out there, so get out there and enjoy yourselves. One more big hand here for Captain Marshall. Have a great day. Don't forget, Men's International Belly Flop Competition 1:15 up on the pool deck. We also have our 2 brand new aqua shows, 3:30 and 5:15 in the Aqua Theater. 2 brand new ice shows tonight. We have lots of great activities. Have a lot of fun, everybody. Again, my name's Corey, your cruise director. We'll see you later. Bye.